Class is in session. Today, you will learn how to master your inner critic, how to work hand in hand with your inner critic, and how to ultimately silence your inner critic, especially in times where you need courage and the fear from the inner critic is not welcomed right now. Let's go. First thing you need to do is hear the inner critic. And that's probably not going to be so hard because the inner critic oftentimes is constantly there. It's that voice that's constantly in the back of your mind. It's been there for so long, you probably don't realize that it's your inner critic. It is not your inner voice, especially if it is always negative and fearful. So the first thing you're going to do is hear that inner critic and name the things that the inner critic is always pointing out, right? Is it always pointing out to your fears? Is it somewhat of an overbearing parent or adult or teacher or something like that, right? That sounds always that's always on you, right? And the last thing you're going to do is sense your inner critic, right? When you hear those things from your inner critic, how does it feel? Where do you feel it? Name it. How does it feel? Write it down. Figure it out. Once you get all of that out of the way, you need to figure out whether or not it's still important. That thing the inner critic is saying. For example, it's my first day of school, right? We're back to school, classes in session, and I am going to high school, right? And I'm already in high school. I'm in 11th or 12th grade. AP classes, SATs, so much going on. And my inner critic is like, oh yeah, you think you're going to go to college? College is super hard. You can't even pass these grades in high school. What do you think you're going to do? These AP classes are going to kick your butt. You're going to get an F. You're not going to get an A. In terms of work, right? You get on a new project and you're the lead on the project, and all of a sudden you start stressing and thinking that, am I good enough to actually lead this project? Am I good enough to take this to completion? These are some of the things that the inner critic might be saying to you, right? You want to name it, you want to hear it, and you want to sense how it makes you feel. Is it making you feel like you can't do it? Is it making you feel like you should probably give up before you even start? And then the next thing you're going to do is ask yourself, what if it does work out? Ask the inner critic that question, actually. What if it does work out? What if everything you just said, it doesn't happen? Instead, the opposite happens. It works out. I did well. I passed my exam. I do the project with flying colors. I'm recognized. What if it goes well? The inner critic has been there for you in the past. The inner critic has been there for you in times where you needed it. It's often part of your ego. But other times, especially now that you're growing older, and if you're on my page, on my channel, then we are learning to silence the inner critic. We are learning to not let the inner critic drive. You are the driver of your life. You are in the front seat. Put the inner critic in the back seat and drive. The inner critic is not necessarily going to be silenced, especially at the beginning. But as long as you don't let the inner critic drive, it could be in the backseat talking, and you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to pay attention to it, right? Make the inner critic understand that you are the boss, that you trust yourself. You trust your inner guide. You trust the wisest part of yourself. You trust yourself to take your life in your own hands and succeed without having to be fearful, without having to worry about what everybody else is going to say if you fail. What if you make it? What if you don't fail? All right, so these are some of the things that I do with my coaching clients. These are some of the tools that I use with them and much more. Let me know If you would like to book a call with me, I'm Linda Foyning. I am a leadership and performance coach, and I help mid-career professionals rise up in their career and have amazing work-life balance. Bye-bye.